Fellow walked into a pub and says, "A pint of Guinness, please." And the barman pours him a pint of Guinness. He drinks it down. Then he gets up on the bar, unzips his flies, gets the old fella out, and starts peeing all over the place. And the barman said, "What the bloody hell?" And people are looking around going, this is disgusting. And the fella says, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry." He said, "I get so embarrassed. This keeps happening." He said, "This is very embarrassing." The barman said, "What?" He said, but the chap says, "Well, look, I'm going to see a psychiatrist in a few days' time, and I'm hoping to get this problem sorted out." He said, "But I'm so embarrassed." He said, "It just keeps happening." So the barman said, "Oh, all right." So the fella goes, and the poor old barman, there he is, mopping everything up, and it's gone everywhere. A couple of weeks go past, and the same bloke walks into the pub, and the barman says, "Oh no, not you again." And the fella says, "Don't worry, I've seen the psychiatrist, and he's totally cured me." He said, "Well, I'm pleased to hear that." He said, "Could I have a pint of Guinness, please?" So the barman says, "Certainly." So he pours him a pint of Guinness, drinks it down, gets up on the bar, does exactly the same. He's peeing all over the place. And the barman said, "Oi," he said, "I thought you said you'd been cured." He said, "I have." He said, "I don't get embarrassed anymore."
Good evening and welcome to another exciting show. And our guest tonight, Dave from Newcastle, will be on between 8:30 and 9 o'clock because I'm going to do a little solo for about half an hour, three-quarters of an hour beforehand. So welcome to the show. It's so exciting. You can see there's Fred the plant in the background. I think he's excited. Better take the banner down now. Where are we? There we are. Put it up a little bit later. And tonight, now you're probably thinking, "Get Some In" is a very strange title. Well, it is a strange title unless you know where it comes from. And there was a inverted commas comedy series, I'm not sure how comedic it was, in the 70s called Get Some In. And what I'm going to talk about is what's been in the news this week, which is a bit of fear porn, of course, because that's what it's all about. And that is the what I'm talking about is conscription. Now, it's something that I was very aware of when I was younger due to what my father went through, because he was a reluctant conscript during World War II. It was the wrong age at the wrong time. But what I'm going to highlight tonight is some things that people may not be fully aware of. So we're going to kick off. First of all, we've got a heck of a lot in chat tonight. So welcome everyone in chat. And before I go any further, we've got who we got. First of all, it was Rob. He was in, but somehow he's disappeared. So we've got Rob in there, and we've got Pat, who asked whether our guest Dave will be allegedly Dave. No, allegedly it isn't actually. It's Dave from Newcastle. He's not been on the show before. And we've also got, where are we? We've got Ralph. Evening, Ralph. Nice to see you nice. And no, actually, Dave is a poet, a musician, and he's quite educated. He's got some specific items that he's researched very deeply. We'll go into that a little later, because talking about poetry, see, hang on, there's Mark Anthony. Hello, Mark. Evening. When I was young, my mother, when she was in a good mood, she put me on my knee and she recited a little rhyme that her mother used to recite to her when she's on her knee. Now, it probably makes no sense, but it starts off with, "Ask no questions, tell no lies. Ever seen a Chinaman doing up his flies are a nuisance, bugs are worse. This is the end of my little verse." See, a little bit of poetry there. I had a strange childhood, didn't I? Other children, their mothers would read to them and that, but I got that sort of poetry. It's probably one a bit weird today, Anyway, on with tonight's show. Now, the idea of forcibly putting people into the forces is not a new idea. The French were officially the first to do it, but of course the Royal Navy, they had pressed men in the 18th century. And what they used to do, they used to have gangs going round pubs, and when people were drunk, they'd grab them, drag them off to a ship, and they'd wake up in the morning and find they're on board a ship. And there they are, press ganged into becoming a sailor. And unless they could prove they were a gentleman, in inverted commas, whatever that was, probably their office was a gents written on the outside, who knows. They were press ganged for slavery, basically, into the Royal Navy. And when you look at it, it has never really worked, because you're pressing people, it's a form of slavery, into something that most people are not fit for, or don't really want to do. But when you look at the First World War, for example, it started in 1914 officially. They didn't start conscription until 1916. It went on from 1916 to 1920, believe it or not. And I was talking to some people earlier this week, and when this hit the news headlines about I don't think it's ever going to happen, but they're saying, oh, no, people won't go into the forces. Well, that's what people said in the 1930s. And in 1936, the Oxford Union had a very famous debate. I can't repeat it verbatim, but it said, no man in this chamber will fight for this country. And in 1939, they all signed up. And what happens is the government puts its propaganda machine on, and that happens every time. And we'll look what happened with something else. And people have said, people won't fall for that again, will they? Yes, they will. Because as George Carlin said, people are bloody stupid. And I like what DJ B2 said, is Oxford Union do like them. I got the giggles tonight. Oh, we got Stephen Truthseeker. Hello, Stephen. And we got Louise. Hello, Louise. Hope all is good. Yes, everything's good. I had a word with old Chris the gardener today, and yes, he's still on the top of his roof doing semaphore to you, but I don't think he picked his signals up yet. So, yeah. But there is such a thing as telephones. Anyway, I'm only joking. But I was going to say is what happened is the First World War generation had a gutful, because they were marched off to war, promised a land fit for heroes, a land of milk and honey, and they'll come back to full employment and blah, 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 and they came back to worse poverty and worse unemployment than when they actually left. And excuse me, I better put my banner up, because people think, when's Wednesday? Here it is. Now, the thing is that there was no real gut, sort of, that people had a gutful, and there was no mood for war in the interwar period. And believe it or not, when the British Legion, became the Royal British Legion in 1971, before that, known as British Legion, was started, it was started as a sort of pacifist organisation. And there was a peace delegation that went over to see Mr. H in Germany in the late 30s, because they knew that the troops have had a gutful. They didn't want any more. Well, Britain started conscription again in 1939, and Churchill was pressing for it all the time. And he said, and this is a complete and utter lie. He said, the population want us to introduce it. No, they bleeding didn't. And it's been proven that the statistics he mentioned were made up. It's all a load of cobblers. But hang on, this is an interesting one that Stephen Truthseeker said. Oh, by the way, Louise has said, I'll start smoke signals for Chris the gardener. That's an idea. Although you can't do that now because of the old climate do flop, because Greta Thunberg, Fartberg, she doesn't like your Martin fires and things like that, does she? So I know what you do. Get a blanket and an electric car. And there we are. You can just put the blanket over the top and you get your smoke signals coming up from it. See, so there you are. Top tip for this evening. no naming, no names, but at least this is Stephen Truth Seeker, but there's at least 2 from Oxford I know, longer, like, moreover, I think they're agents of the state. Yes, I think you've got a point there. Anybody on Oxford Union, that's establishment, and I don't trust the establishment at all. But the strange thing is about conscription, it went from 1916 to 1920, and from 1939 to 1960. And they conscripted women. Now, the Germans didn't conscript women, the Russians did, Americans didn't, and women were conscripted from 1941 until 1945. And there's a secret, they have the secret papers, documents that they release after 30 years. And when the secret documents from 1947 were released, the government actually were going to reintroduce conscription to women in 1947, but it didn't happen. And people wonder why the divorce rate went through the roof in 1945, and they said, oh, it's the men returning from the front. Bullshit. What it was, there were single women that were desperate to get out of going and forcibly being put into the forces, because it was women from the age of 20 to 30 if they're unmarried, and they lowered the age to 18, and for men it was 18 to 51. And I have a relative who was in the First World War and was called up for the Second World War, but the older chaps they didn't put on the front line. And what happened to him, he actually went to, I think it was the Orkneys, and he was in Mensa. And all he did is he played records to WAFs. So he had a bit of a good time, I think. Now, what I was going to say is, yes, it was from 18 to 51. And then after World War II, they stopped conscription for a very short time. Then they reintroduced it. And I think it was from the age of 18 to 30. Now, they stopped it in 1960, and the last national serviceman was released in 1963. Now, to me, I'm passionately against any form of compulsion for anything like that. To me, a free country, you've got to be, freedom is freedom of choice. Now, I believe that if somebody was threatening my home, people were threatening my people that are around me, my tribe, shall we say. Well, I haven't got a family, but well, I have, but I have nothing to do with them. But shall we say, in the old sense, your family, yes, I would fight to the last, shoulder to shoulder with anybody else that was trying to fight, defend them. But to me, an enemy is not a bogeyman millions of miles away or thousands of miles away that the government tells me that they're a threat, because in the First World War, this country, I believe, was not under any threat whatsoever. We had a navy that could have blown anything out of the water, and it was just an excuse to get into the war. And I think there's more in it than meets the eye. And I personally think it was a demonic, and it was some form of demonic sacrifices, genocide, personally. And Ali Bev said, same as me, 100% against conscription. And also, what I was going to say is that with this, they had the draft in America until I think it was 1973. They had it for a long time. They had it from 1941 to 1973. And this is where it gets rather interesting, because during World War II, I found this out from my dad. Now, my father, he was conscripted in 1939 at the tender age of 20. The wrong age at the wrong time. And on his call-up papers, it said Territorial Army. So that future, I've probably said this before, future historians will look back on that and say, oh, he's a volunteer. No, he wasn't. He was a conscript. And the government lied, and they said that every conscript will have freedom of choice whether they go into the RAF, Navy or Air Force. And when, because they had to register, and it was illegal, they'd fine you if you didn't register, And once they introduced that Conscription Act, they closed the borders to anybody of military age. You could not get out of the country, except there was a ship, I believe it was called the Athena, and it was packed full of MPs and dignitaries' sons who were of military age, and that ship was bound for America because America hadn't entered into the war in 1939, and one of the first ships to be torpedoed after the declaration of war, when Britain declared war on Germany, not the other way around, was a U-boat sunk this ship. And when they had they tried to hide the passenger list, and it was full of military-aged men, boys rather, because they are boys and 20, who were MPs and earls and dignitaries' sons. So that tells you something, doesn't it? Yes. Anyway, on with the story. What I was going to say is that during the Vietnam War, Canada and Sweden had a kind of open policy, and draft dodgers went to Canada, and they could get political asylum there, and I believe they still no longer can go back to the United States. They get arrested even after all these years. I mean, the Vietnam War ended in 1973, but they still cannot return to the United States. But they reckon the Canadian economy boomed because the people, the Americans that went there and stayed there, and the same with Sweden, the Americans that went there and stayed there were the educated types, because you had to have a little bit of money, quite a bit of money to get away. Because with America, you can slip over the border, and with Sweden, I don't know how they got there, but they got there somehow, and that's where they went to. The other place they could go to would be South America, and I believe there was an amnesty there. But I don't think they did have an amnesty for draft dodgers, and I think Gerald Ford signed it, and also Carter had an amnesty. But I don't think the ones that went to Canada had an amnesty, unless you're an American and can tell me otherwise or know otherwise. But I don't think there's an amnesty there, you see. Now, the thing is, if when I was military age, and I still am, believe it or not, because I can put the age right up, and I know in some places it's 60s and 70s. And with a militia, that can go on until you're about 90. But if the government want you, they'll have you. And I know that when they were trying to break the Enigma code, they found that was an old boy that could actually solve the Times crossword very quickly. So some men in grey suits or black suits went and visited him and, inverted commas, encouraged him to work on code breaking. I use the word encouraged. Yes. Now, oh, hang on, we've gone dark again. Whee! Will it come back? Yes, we're back again. It's early this week, isn't it? You know, I think the Claxons are set off early at YouTube. Anyway, on with the story. When I was of the age that I could have been, if they was going to reintroduce conscription, no way, as I say, would I fight for bogeymen that the government tells me who I should. And also, to get out of it, you had to have connections, or you had to be a member of a peace organisation. This is in 1939. And my dad said that to be a conscientious objector, you had to either have connections, be a member of a peace organisation for over a year or something, and you had to go and sit in front of a court that had a court hearing. So you could not get out of it very easily. They tried everything to stop people getting out of it. So what a fair number of people did is they went to Northern Ireland and slipped over the border and worked in hotels and things like that. But the thing is, there's a lot of high unemployment in Southern Ireland. So, you know, there was it wasn't easy. Now, Southern Ireland during World War II was very interesting because there was talk of them introducing conscription, and it was thrown out of the Southern Irish Parliament because they said it's not democratic and it's not for a free society. So what they had instead, they had an emergency civil army, similar to a militia, but it was voluntary. And I spoke to an old boy that was in it. He was Irish, and he said, "What happened?" He said, "You went home each night, and you went there at weekends, and they trained. They had German uniforms and German equipment, and this was years ago." And in my naivety, I said, "Oh, German uniforms and German equipment." I said, "That would have been a bit confusing." He said, "If the Germans had invaded," he said, "You're joking." He said, "We weren't worried about Germany." He said, "We were worried about the British." I said, "Really?" And this chap told me an amazing story, which you will find it difficult to find in books. And he said that they, as I say, I think he had a German, he had German still everything. He said the British were making up stories about U-boats refueling in German, in the Irish, Southern Irish bays, and being supplied by the Southern Irish. He said, well, to a limited degree, whether it was a British submarine or an Irish or a German U-boat, whatever nationality of the country, sometimes damaged vessels limped in to Irish bays and they were equipped. But he said, we knew the British were hyping this up as an excuse to invade Ireland for the food. He said, because that's what they're after, the food. So as to feed the rest of the United Kingdom. He said, and we knew it. But he said it was a very strange situation because there was quite a few ex-army British fellas who were in the emergency army of high rank. And he said they swore allegiance to Ireland. He said he said it was very difficult for them because they'd married Irish ladies. They had Irish wives. So and I'm not sure it's him or he said a friend of his. I can't remember, but he said I think a senior that was over him was English. Believe it or not. But he said their plan was the Southern Irish knew there was not a hope in hell's chance of stopping the British if they wanted to invade. He said the force would have been phenomenal. So what they were trained in was guerrilla warfare. And he said the plan was to hold them up. And he said, and it was very intelligent because what they did is they got people, local people who knew the local area, to defend their local area. And he said the plan was to hold them up and the German army, Germany, to invade and come in, and the Irish and the Germans would have forced the British back. But how the Germans would have invaded, I do not know. But this was in 1940. So we don't know. But when you look at the map, this idea that German U-boats went and refueled there in Southern Ireland is a bit, yes, they did. I'm not saying they didn't, but so did English submarines and they got supplied as well. So it was, because remember, it was a neutral country. So they had freedom to go in there. They should have officially been interned, but they weren't. If they were, I know that a few German aircraft, Dublin was bombed, for example, by mistake, and some German aircraft limped into Southern Ireland who knew they couldn't get back to Germany after a bombing raid. If they bombed somewhere like Cardiff or somewhere over in the west of England, they knew they couldn't get back. And similar happened in when Americans were bombing Berlin. What happened, or further north, if they had problems with the aircraft, and they would actually turn off and land in Sweden, neutral Sweden. And what happened is the Americans, a lot of Americans in the Air Force, had an absolute gutful of being strafed and bombed and that. And there was a report that one aircraft tailed off and said he's got fuel problems. That was the excuse, fuel problems. Went off to Sweden, and 3 others followed him without saying a word. And the American Air Force put orders through, but it was never taken up, that planes should shoot down their own planes if they were legging it to Sweden. So that's another little tale that you don't hear. But I heard that from a pilot. It was actually on a documentary, I believe it's on YouTube, and it was an actual an old chap. It was filmed obviously about 20 years ago, telling you what happened. But back to conscription, what I was going to say is that when I was of military age, I did not want to go through what my father went through. And again, I would defend my own property. I defend my own people if my own people were being attacked. But there's no way, because at the beginning of the First World War, this country was under no threat whatsoever from Germany, because we had a navy that could have blown almost anything out of the water. And in the Second World War, I believe we was under no threat. And it was about the only time we've declared war on a country that was actually advancing away from this country. Remember, it's going into Poland. And I won't go into the history of that, because what we've been told and what actually happened, if you start looking into the details, is a little bit different. But what I was going to say is, now before 9/11, you could fly, well, it wasn't that free, but you could fly to most places in the world. And I had a plan that if there was a war or they're going to introduce conscription, because what happened, for example, they stopped conscription in Germany after the 1945, but they reintroduced it in the mid-50s. And Germany had the highest rate of conscientious objectors in the 50s onwards, and they stopped it in 2010, so it's not that long ago, in the world. Strange, isn't it? So from I think it's 1955 to 2010 they had conscription, but in the end, I think in the 60s or 70s they made it where you didn't have to go in the army. You could choose to go into helping social services and that type of thing. But it was a regular known thing that people would save up and send their sons abroad for the 2 years they were the wrong age or the right age, and then they'd come back after when they were too old to go into the army. And that's what they did. So loads of Germans went overseas for a couple of years and saved up their money to avoid going in the military. Now, because we're not all cut out for the military, we're all cut out for different things. So I had this plan, and my dad said, remember, they closed the borders. You can't get away. So my plan, and I went into great detail, was to go to Northern Ireland. And again, it's very easy to slip over the border. Very easy. Slip over the border. And remember, you'd need money for this. So I had an account that I used to save in. And it built up a fair amount of money. Not a lot, but, enough. Because where'd you get your finances from? So my idea was to go over the border. And then I think it's Shannon Airport, because you could still keep your British passport, take a flight from Southern Ireland, which wouldn't be restricted, to Canada. Now, did have Canadian relatives. I've also did have American relatives, or still had, but I've lost contact with them. And my idea would be to go to Canada and seek political asylum. But the thing is that Canada was a member of the Commonwealth, and I'm not sure that you would accept political asylum from this country. Now, the other one would be to go to Sweden, but I can't speak the language. So the third idea was to do a hop, skip and jump. And that is to go to Canada, and then from Canada, go down to Venezuela. Because in Venezuela in those days, you could get a Venezuelan passport with relative ease, and they would accept you in as an asylum seeker. I'd get political asylum there. And I'd stay out of the way until I was too old and then come back, because I'd have a joint passport. But that's all stopped now. That's all changed. You could not do that today. And the only thing you could do is go to Argentina. Because Argentina, you can go there and it's very easy to stay there for 90 days. And then you just ask permission to stay there for another 90 days. Now, whether you get a political asylum or not, I don't know. But South America is a safe bet. So it'd be either Argentina, Brazil, or somewhere. I'm not sure about Venezuela today. I think they've toughened up on it a lot now. But there is a huge British and German community in Venezuela. And apparently it's quite a nice country to live in, actually. They're government doesn't breathe down your throat too much, and the crime rate is, I think it's one of the lowest in South America. So, so just think about it. If they had to introduce conscription, I'd have had probably a Venezuelan passport. So interesting, but luckily for me, it didn't happen. Now let's have a quick look in chat, and where are we now? We've got it. My word, we've certainly got a lot tonight. We've got where do I start? Was it Chris? You haven't got a tribe either. Well, I've got fuck them all, haven't I? mean, the smallest country in the world, unless you know differently. See, here we go. I 100% agree with you there, Kat. 100% against banksters' wars. Yeah, yes. And yes, to cover up the banking scam. Well, I've got to be careful because I'm on YouTube, but World War One was about Dosh, and World War Two was about something beginning with U, USURY. I can't say it on YouTube for obvious reasons, but it was abolished in Germany, and the banksters couldn't stand that, and that's why I believe we declared war on them. So that's it, and that's spot on to cover up the banking scam. Instead of conscription, you could have subscription. That's an idea, isn't it? Yes. Well, I've got a bloody good idea. Why not what they tried to bring through in America, that during the Vietnam War, that every American president must spend 2 weeks on the front burying the dead. Every year. So any war that America's involved with, the American president must spend 2 years at the front burying the dead. Funny enough, it never got passed. Slap my thigh, I wonder why. Yes. But I won't read this one out from Stephen Truth Speaker. I think you'll understand, Steve, why I won't read it out, because I think it set the claxons off at YouTube HQ, hopefully. And this, yes, I agree with you here. Yes. Yeah. Well, you see, to say that I'm a pacifist, I don't like putting words on name stamped labels on people. People who often said, because I was against conscription, oh, you're a pacifist then. And we can call you what you like, really. You can call me a potato if you want, or a dickhead. I don't really care, because names are meaningless, because people always try to put you into little slots. And, and as I've often said, yes, I would defend my own people. If I couldn't get out of the forces, I would then go into I'm a stretcher bearer, but I wouldn't bear arms. I'd refuse to bear arms. But because I'm not religious, I wouldn't really get away with that. Or go into bomb disposal, because a lot of conscientious objectors were actually in bomb disposal, and they volunteered for that. So that's probably something I would go into, would be bomb disposal or stretcher bearer. But I'd absolutely bluntly refuse to bear arms unless it was my own people being attacked, and that's basically it. Because to me, it's savagery, and I'm against a death sentence as well, because I always believe that it takes a psychopath to remove life, or someone that is not, shall we say, that hasn't got feelings. So really, in many ways, I look on psychopaths, like, as I've said before, like alligators and crocodiles. They have a right to live on this earth, but not with us. So put them on an island. So old anal slob and people like that, and old Billy Boy, put them on an island, not, let them have infrastructure and lights and electricity and all that. That's fine. but away from us. They can't be with us. And the reason why is the same reason why you wouldn't let an alligator into your house, because it would eat you. And a psychopath is conditioned to be the way they are. They can't help it. So why dispense with their life when they can't help it? It's what's in their brain. Not all psychopaths, not all. I'm only talking about the ones that are dangerous to human beings. Some are not dangerous to human beings, and we shouldn't witch hunt against them because they're okay. So that, you know, and we can scientifically prove now, because a psychopath, you put them and they have a brain scan, you can tell by their frontal lobe whether they are or not. And if they are, again, you'd still treat them with respect, and you say, I'm sorry, you've got to go to this island away from us. You're dangerous. Simple as that, you know. It says, wait, this is not Rumble. Laugh out loud. You're right, yes. The thing is that I'm hoping to go over there soon, so don't worry. Now, this is interesting. Battle of Tonkin, correct, Alibeth, was a psyops to go to war with Vietnam warmongers, USA. That is a 100%, because if you look up, I believe it's Encyclopedia Britannica, it actually says it didn't happen. And what they did, I think it was in 1964, it's off the top of my head, they showed you stretchers coming off of the ship, and and it did what it was supposed to do. Americans are saying, we've got to kill these, we've got to go in and deal with these North Vietnamese, etc., etc., etc. And it wound Americans up, but it's something that didn't happen. And the captain of the ship that was in the battle of, it was the Tonkin incident. I believe he was the father of the bloke who sung in a famous group. That's quite interesting. Now we've got here, I was eating an Onkin yogurt, poor sod, before, and came to conclusion the was in the yogurt. It tasted awful. I had to email Onkin to complain. Do you know something? It's funny you should mention that, because I bought some, I try and keep away from dairy products. Now, this is something rather interesting. Two things that have happened. Now, we're going completely off topic, but I think you'll find this interesting. You know, I think it was last week, I actually showed you, let's have a look. Oh, I've still got it here. Yes, I showed you this bird feeder, okay, that I've made from some cups, and I put some fat in there and mixed with bird seed. Now, the fat, what happens is, some time ago, I was in the supermarket and I couldn't get any butter. And again, I'm trying to keep off of dairy products. So hang on, let's get rid of that. Right. And I got this synthetic butter, but I looked on the back and it said, you know, it's plant-based and this, that, and the other. And I thought, well, unlike margarine, which I think is only one molecule away from plastic, I thought, I believe it is, I'm not sure about that, but I have been told, shall we say, allegedly it's one molecule away. I looked on this butter, this sort of plant-based butter, and I won't say what manufacturer it is, and I thought, and I had a weak moment. I thought I might try that because it doesn't look as if anything nasty in it. Well, it sat in my fridge for ages, and it eventually expired, and it expired about a month or two back. So I thought, well, I'll use that for the dicky birds. Not what I just saw a robin go onto that bird feeder. Now that is that synthetic butter. Birds, that is exactly the same. That was taken over a week ago. It's exactly the same now. I saw one robin pick a little bit of food out and went. The birds haven't touched it. Interesting, isn't it? They haven't touched it at all. It's very, very weird. But what I was going to say is I got some goat's cheese, and because again I try and avoid dairy. I haven't got any allergies towards dairy or anything like that. But Miles, that's the chap that runs a health food store, and he's a dietitian as well. He said it's best to avoid dairy if you can. So I thought, well, goat's milk and cheese is not too bad because, you know, cavemen used to milk goats and it's a bit more palatable. So I got this goat's cheese, and I had it with tomatoes It's terrible acid taste in my mouth. The cheese had actually reacted with the tomatoes. Weird, very, very weird. So there we go. And I think we've got somebody coming on live, and it's welcome, Dave.
Hey, how are you doing?
And yes, hello. And there's Maureen behind. Just one moment. I better take this banner down. That Dave from Newcastle will be around at 8:30. So
Yeah.
welcome to the show. And you're a new guest. Maureen isn't. She was on over Christmas. Hello, Maureen. And I believe your daughter's there as well. So I can't really get my daughter's name. I'm terrible memory for names. But now, Dave, you're a poet, and I just recited at the beginning of the show one of my famous. What my famous?
Talk to me.
My mother actually said to me, "Hello, I like you. I won't mention anything about your hair because I know ladies are, a bit sensitive. But what the bleeding hell's that mop on your head?"
Look at Dave's capable hands.
Very nice too. But yes, and I believe that you have some interesting tales to tell. We'll have a quick look in chat, shall we, before we start, because we've got Stig in from New Zealand. So no sheep jokes, please. So hello, morning, Stig. That's it. And we've got. I won't read this out for obvious reasons. From Stephen Truthseeker. Sorry, mate, I can't read it out because And then we've got Chris the Gardener. Hello, Chris. Evening all. Late dinner tonight. So I'm just turning in. And Chris will be back with us in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully with Ben. So I've got that in the pipeline. And we've got morning, Louise. I'm very good. I'm now a foster parent for puppies. Oh, that's nice. New Zealand puppies. That's it. And let's have a look. We've got Ancient Ruby in. That's nice. Evening, Chris, and everyone in chat. And what I was saying about escaping to Canada, because you used to be able to get, I believe, political asylum there. This is very true. Canada is communist now, Chris. Very true. Now, DJ Beta, I said go to South America. South America does look good in the current geopolitical climate. So I just wonder if you want to mention anything about conscription, or we go off on a tangent to something else. By the way, the title "Get Some In." I haven't explained what that means. The services said "Get Some Service In" the 1950s, and it became a regular saying. Apparently, it was long before my time. They left out the word service, so they said "Get Some In." And that's where they got that term comes from. But
I remember the show.
I could just about remember it.
The comedy show.
Yes. But it's funny. Chris has said, hopefully at our age we'll be safe from conscription. You never know, though. Well, in Germany in 1945, they were conscripted poor sods up to the age of 85. Yeah. Anybody, if you can stand up and hold a gun because they're so desperate, you were in the Volksstrom. I think it's Volksstrom. Someone German would be able to correct me on that. Which was like the Home Guard. A lot of blokes in the Home Guard were in their 80s, but that was voluntary. The Home Guard, you didn't have to go to that, But another one, Hatchie has said, interesting times. Conscription, modern day Dad's Army. Jonesy and Jonesy and Mannering converting electric mobility scooters into tanks. It would be a great comedy. Yes, but what's your views, Chris? Dave?
I was reading some interesting facts about the First World War. There was over 16,000 people that were against conscription. That's what the statistics tell you anyway. And there was over 6,000 people that were actually in prison for it.
Yes, and they're treated very badly, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I thought the figures would have been higher on that, because I thought there would have been a lot more people considering the population.
You're right, but do you
It
know
doesn't
that
seem-
they have?
It doesn't seem many, really. 16,000.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But mind you, could they be cooked figures by the government? Because
Well,
Churchill,
anything's
in
possible.
World War II, he said the vast majority of people are in favour of conscription. They weren't. But he said that, but it was a lie, absolute lie. Because I know that the conscientious objectors in the First World War went round a series of safe houses that were actually opened up by women who kept them undercover. And in the Second World War, it was a lot harder for conscientious objectors. And believe it or not, Benny Hill, he actually tried to go on a run. People don't realise that. And he was in different plays, different shows, and he got his call-up papers and he legged it to another show. He got his call-up papers again and he legged it to another one. He kept legging it until they caught up with him.
I'm sure the singer out of Aha, the band, I'm sure they came to Britain. I'm sure he escaped conscription. I think that I can't remember if they're Norwegian or Swedish or.
It'd be Norway because they've still got it, and
Right.
Sweden still.
Yeah, it was accepted that you had to do your national service. So they basically came to Britain in the 80s, I think.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
I worked with a chap from Belgium, and he had to do his 2 years. No, it's not 2 years. I think it was 18 months or a year, something like that. And he had it cushy because what they did in Belgium is he was trained to be an architect. So you did your basic drill, what they call it, drill bashing, where they rifles and all that.
Square bashing.
That's it. And his job was to drive a jeep with top class generals when they did military exercises. So he stayed in the jeep nice and warm when it was all cold, and they're out staying out there with their binoculars and that looking around. So he said he had a bit of a cushy number. But he said that if anybody, because they've stopped it in Belgium now, if anybody was to invade Belgium, last people to know about it would be the Belgian army. He said, because they're too busy fighting themselves. He said, because it was conscripts, they couldn't give a shit. And he said, what they used to do, they sabotage loads of stuff. And he said, the funniest thing they did, not him personally, but he saw, was they took all the wheel nuts off of a tank transporter. And it was like a sort of an exhibition day. When it went around the corner, it just went bosh, went sideways. And he said they had rifles that fell to bits. He said it was costing the Belgian public a fortune to keep a load of people that didn't want to be there. He said nobody could give a shit. And he said it got to a point where sergeants were shouting orders. They said, "Sod off." He said, really stroppy. They didn't, it's a waste of life.
What's your opinion on national service?
No, I'm totally 100% against it. I don't believe anything compulsory. I believe if we had a militia that was voluntary, that would be a bit different. Now, Switzerland's got a militia, but that's not voluntary.
Right.
But voluntary, it'd be a little bit different, a sort of a militia. America did have a militia, but it sort of got wasted. It finished. But what's your view on it?
Well, my father, he served his national service as those did. He was born in 1930, so he had to do, I think it was 3 years back then. Then
that was the war. They put it up to 3 years, didn't they?
Yeah, then he was demobbed and came out, and he got a job in the hospital, I think, in the kitchen, working in the kitchen. But I think the only positive thing that actually comes out of national service is the discipline that men learn, because you can, in that time period that you're in there, you can learn a trade. You can pass your driving test, and you learn discipline, and you learn how to be clean and how to cook for yourself and all those things. But that's about all, really. Like yourself, I think it shouldn't be compulsory. It shouldn't be made to do it. It's got to be freedom of choice. But this whole thing that's going on at the minute, there's talk about it, isn't there?
Yes,
I think it's just a massive psyop. I really do.
I 100% agree with you. I think it's a misdirection because I don't think they could introduce it very easily.
Yeah.
You think all the druggies, all the
Well, if you think about the logistics of it, really, we have a very high percentage of older population now, don't we?
Yeah.
More so than younger people. So, and the young people, can I say, don't have the discipline?
What about these? Was it men that identify themselves as women? What are they going to do? They're going to go in the WAFs? So marching along.
Well, maybe that would be a get-out clause for all of them, really, wouldn't it?
But you think about it, in a war, that'd be useful because the first objective in war is surprise, isn't it? Surprise the enemy. So if they dropped a load of blokes dressed as women in amongst the enemy, that would be a bloody big surprise, wouldn't it? What's this? So perhaps it's a sort of a military strategy, So fellas dressed as women.
It just wouldn't work. Common sense tells you that if you really sit down and think about it and really do go into it, it just couldn't work. It's just a big psyop, really. That's all it is. It just creates more fear, uncertainty, and confusion in people's minds, and distraction, of course.
Well, that's right. I mean, apparently they were talking about it, the Falklands War, but an MP brought it up in Parliament. But the thing is, you see, it takes time to train people, and the war would have been over before, we don't, more like the Falklands War, they didn't know how long. But whether this was true or not, I do not know. But apparently, in Portsmouth, when the Falklands War started, there was a recruiting office. I don't know whether it's for Navy, Army, or what it was, but it was a forces recruiting office. And the queue, youngsters wanted to join up, went round the corner. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not. I don't think it is true. I think it's a psyop that was put in the press because, surely people then did have a bit more savvy because although there are people that want the excitement, I just don't know. It's very, very strange. But, I don't think Argentina was any threat to us here in Great Britain. I don't think it was going to sail an aircraft carrier up to all the way from Argentina to here, were they? And sort of blast us. They weren't going to go into Newcastle, were they? And sort of, I don't think there was any threat there somehow.
The funny thing about the whole story of that is that nobody really heard about the Falkland Islands until the war. Really, it was some rock far away, thousands of miles away. And nobody knew really about it, and it's what that part was in this whole affair, because it's not exactly a great place to live, is it really?
Well, not really. And I like what Bernard Manning said. He said, well, the Irish have helped out. He said they've got to bomb Falkirk. That's one of his gags. Sorry if you're Rhode Island, but no. The funny thing is that, as I say, the first casualty of war is truth, always, isn't it? When you think about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, your dad, did he say much about because, as I say, for 3 years, I think he would have been called up in the that because they put it up in 1950. So he would have probably may have been involved in the Korean War, and that was from 50 to 53, I believe it was.
No, he just done national service. That was all really.
Because it's generally 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. In Russia today, it's 1 year, and they reckon there's so many people hopping the wag that to do because lots of people are just leaving and just legging it out the country and that. So
yeah.
But it's like if they made a law that we all had to train to be ballet dancers. Okay, no, we're not all cut out for it.
No, well,
rifle, you know.
They just want us to fight the wars, don't they? Really, they don't want to do it, so they've got to have us to fight the wars, the little skirmishes, the disagreements.
When did you first sort of wake up to something is not quite right? I mean, was it when you were young, or late 9/11, or when?
For me, I think it goes back to when I was probably about. It was about 14, I think 15, when I started asking questions about myself and the world at large, and my place in it, and the whole shebang, really. And I think from then it was just it's just been a journey.
Yes.
It's been a lifetime.
When did you sort of first get into poetry and singing? Because I believe you're are you an entertainer? I believe. I don't know that much about you. Do you sort of?
No, I kind of fell into it, but I was sitting down having to think about it just recently. And I actually started writing philosophy when I was about 18 or something, and that comes across in the poetry that I write. It's kind of that seems to be the predominant feature of it. It's philosophical. It's spiritual. It's unpolitical. It's non-political, I should say. It's challenging. It's stuff like that, and I think that's what's happening. There was a 40-year gap between me actually starting to write, and then before I picked it up again, and I fell into it by accident, really. So I'm a reluctant poet. But I do write songs.
Oh yes. And that'll be very interesting. I mean, you play the guitar as well.
I do, yeah, but the songs I write are quite challenging as well. The lyrics.
Would they set the Claptons off at YouTube?
Yes, they probably would.
Yeah.
I've got a few little normal ditties, but
why not?
Yeah, but I brought it tonight, but I don't want to get closed down.
Well, it's funny because I don't know whether I said this at the beginning of the show, but YouTube, I've been playing silly games with my audience figures, because when we came off air last week, I was with Chris the Gardener. We were saying, blimey, we've got pretty good audience figures. Oh, that's great. And we had up to about 40 in chat. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the show, we quickly went on. It said something like 23.
Yeah.
Hang on. How comes there's 23 people, but there's 40 people in chat, and we don't know how many people are not in chat watching this show?
Yeah.
Up and down. How can they go down? The amount of people watched it. But it says that we've got 2,000 people watching. Okay, 2,000. Yeah, any shows a couple of hundred.
Well, as I mentioned before, this is what happened to one of the guys I was watching, and I think they do with all these people who are like, yes, like yourself, and doing truth podcasts, and David Snedeker, he was called, and they fiddled around with his figures, and he got he had thousands of people watching him, but the figures didn't say that. They said there was only so many watching, but there wasn't. They knew different. But I think this is what they do, because it's all about hits, isn't it? Really.
Well, that's it. Because I mean, I've been banging away at this for about 14 years, believe it or not, and my audience figures are not that, pretty small. But you get the new kids on the block, they're there, and within weeks they've got thousands. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. I'm not envious, don't get me wrong, but it's something odd going on there.
Well, he would get about 2,000 or so on one of his shows, but sometimes it wouldn't say that, because he was on about 3 different platforms. He was using YouTube, Twitter, and it could have been, I think it was D Live, and it could have been Rumble as well, but he was getting different figure readings all the time. They weren't consistent, so and eventually he lost these platforms, lost his funding.
It's disgusting. I mean, I don't actually get funding from YouTube, because my feeling is I want to be free, and I don't want it to be more money orientated. And once you get money orientated, the fun goes out of it. And I think I just want to cheer people up, because there's so much of this misery going around, and I think we can get facts over by being happy about it. And we'll have a laugh. I mean, let's face it, the cronies in power, you got to laugh at them. They're crackers, absolutely bleeding crackers. That's it.
No, they'd be in a different reality. They'd be certified, wouldn't they? Really,
That's right. That's right. I mean, when you look at them, I mean, we got a new bozo, a new MP around where I live, and the other one's leaving. And you look at it and you think, I got this literature through the letterbox. It's childish. It really is childish, because quite honestly, I don't believe that we need government. I'm totally against government. The less government there is, I think the better it is. People say, oh, who's going to make decisions? How are we going to get things on? Well, hang on a moment. The civil service in the country.
Well, the word government, you know what it means, don't you?
Okay, carry on. No.
It means mind control.
Yeah.
If you look it up, meant is mind, and govern is control. So when you look up the meaning of government, what it actually means is mind control, and that's what they do.
Well, it's true. It's true. You think about it, how people. I mean, it's. I'll be very careful what I say here, but over the last couple of years, how compliant people were. I was the only one walking around without something over my gob, and the only one in this major Tesco's. And I thought, something odd going on here. It's something weird. And people were saying, "Excuse me, why have you got all this sort of stuff?" And it was a time when there was like little dictators coming out saying, "Can't do this, can't do that." And I can understand what it was like during the periods of witch hunting. He was like a sort of an unclean person for walking around, breathing clean, well, not clean, but fresh air, and not quite a load of. But I saw a couple the other day, last time I went shopping, young couple, must have been in their 20s or 30s.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Young people wearing masks. I mean, there's a young lady works down at a local supermarket. I'll not mention the chain, right? That might get you shut down as well. And she's wore a mask forever, ever since it started, and she's still wearing a mask now. and she can't be more than like 30s.
Yes.
So
Well, it's surprising how people are very, very gullible. I think what it is that people prefer others to think for them. They find it hard to think for themselves, and I just don't. I really don't understand it, because to me, I could see through it from the beginning. I could see through most things, and I mean, when you think about it, going back to the First World War, there's this 30% of people could see through. This is the formation thing. I'll be careful what I say there. Strange enough, YouTube took that show off and they put it back on again now. But
I think you're right. I think, you see, for a lot of people, it's much easier for the government to think for them and make decisions themselves. But this all starts back from when you're growing up in school, really. We've been conditioned that way from being at school. It's called the indoctrination.
Well, I think that I like what Louise Wilcox says here. The monster raving loony party was saner than the main parties. They're all the same party when you consider it's them and us. Well, Screaming Lord Such, I don't think he committed suicide. I really don't think so. Because I don't. Have you ever seen the monster raving loony party?
Yeah, I remember the guy back from years ago. He was always up there on the stage when they made the announcement for the who had won the local election. He was always there. I think he used to wear a top hat or something, didn't he?
That's it, Screaming Lord Such, and he used to, when they announced the winner, he used to go up as if he'd won. But what I liked is the commentator would say Labour, 330 votes, and the commentator would say Labour like this, and they'd say Conservatives, 222 votes, Conservative, 1 vote, Loony. And it always struck me, but what is it? Vote Loony, it makes sense, things like that. And it's lost it now. We need more of that, much more. That would be the only time I'd vote, would be for the Loony Party. I think just for a laugh. No, voting to me.
You see, I've never been political. Do you think it really matters? It's always been a 2-horse race anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it always has been. That's I think democracy was designed by the USURY scammers. That's who we are ruled by, and that is the banks with this scam. And they devised democracy to make people believe the fallacy that there's freedom. There isn't. It's not free at all, because it's mob rule, basically. The mob rule.
It was Mark Twain said about democracy. He says if it was about voting, actually, he said if voting actually worked, wouldn't let you do it. And that's really it, isn't it? Because
that's right.
It's the illusion of democracy. You don't actually have democracy. You don't have freedoms. You have liberties. This goes into common law and all that stuff. You're granted liberties. That's what you are. And people think that slavery was abolished, but it wasn't. It was just extended.
Well, Louise has said a good one here. Voting is a ruse to make the people believe they have a choice of slave owner. Yes. Yeah. But also, you're handing responsibility over for your life to a complete and utter raving nutcase. Someone you don't know, they're putting out a load of bullshit telling you how marvellous they are. But what is it? Self recommendation is no recommendation. What is it with these? And I think it was Adrian. Was it Adrian Wall? One of those reporters went in. He became a political correspondent, I think. Somebody might be able to correct me in chat. And he when he met politicians, he firmly believed that they've got a mental slightly bonkers, so not quite right upstairs.
But I have a friend, a late friend, he sadly passed away, but he always used to say to me, no matter who you vote for, the government always get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, they will tell you what you want to hear, but all the while they have an agenda already set aside for when they get in. So, you know, it makes no odds. Voting makes no difference, really.
No, it
It's
never has done.
no.
And, I mean, I think they could actually use the same speeches they gave about 100 years ago, and people wouldn't notice any difference. It's always the same crap. They don't change, as you said. But Mark Twain said, you know,
Yeah.
they'd outlaw it.
You know, the monster has two faces. You know, it's the same head, it just has two faces. You know, it's a bit
That's
like
right.
talking about Benny Hill. I think he used to do that sketch as well. We used to do the one side of the face and one side of the other.
Oh, that's Tommy Cooper, wasn't it? It's Tommy Cooper.
I think there's a couple of comedians used to do it, but
yeah. But they are two-faced. But I used to listen to these late night phone-ins. A bit sad, isn't it? You know, because I used to come home from work, my brain was going like this, and I'd lie in bed, I couldn't get off to sleep, so I used to put the radio on. Well, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't listen to radio. And there was one night, this elderly woman phoned in, and she was the sort of woman you knew she was honest. I don't know what it is. You get a gut feeling when you know there's a genuine one. There's not. I could be totally wrong. But she was an ex-secretary at the House of Commons.
right.
And she said they could throw a tantrum if they thought a member of the opposition have got a better hotel room than they have when they went to these little jollies, you know, around the world, gallivanting around the world, just fact finding and things all that crap. And she said you had to treat them like children. They'd never grown up.
Yeah.
Look at them in the House of Commons. They are like children. All this stuff. I mean, could you actually work in a place that I couldn't?
You've got to basically sacrifice a lot of your principles and beliefs and, you know, ethics, really, if you're going to take a job like that. I mean, I'm sure you used to watch Yes Minister.
Yes. Very true. I think that was.
It was all true. Everything in that program is true.
Yeah.
And basically that was, you know.
Sorry.
I think I can mention it without. My sister worked as a nanny in London for a Conservative MP, and I'll not mention his name. I don't think he's in. He may be in Parliament now. But he's probably some backbencher or something now. But he used to get up in the morning, come down to breakfast. He say, right, after breakfast, then he say, right, I'm off to the House of Commons to cock up. Basically, he used to take the piss, but because that's knew exactly what they were doing. Say, I'm off to cock up the country or something like that,
Oh yeah, well, Rick Mall, do you remember him in what was it called? Was it Yes? No, that wasn't Yes. That was the New Statesman.
That was Alan Bastard, isn't it?
Alan Bastard, and that was close because I like when he broke into the cabinet office. Was it the Power Minister's office? He went through the door and he went, "Oh, yeah. Goody, we got next year's election results. I wonder if I'll get in." The other one was when he came out of the House of Commons as this poor sod with one leg. So, do you remember the Falklands governor? Do I? He said, made a fortune out of it and kicked his stick away.
Yeah, but it was quite near the knuckle, but it was very bang on, like politically, really, kind of like it was a kind of more what's the word? A more brutal version of Yes Minister, really.
It was, but Rick Mall was the only person that could act that part. It was Mayfield, and he did it perfectly because you really, it was the way he acted. He must have studied characters.
Well, he was taking the proverbial, wasn't he? Really?
Oh, Yeah.
But he
Do you
was
remember-
taking a poke at them really, and which is what happened in Spitting Image.
Spitting Image was good, but there's one particular one that they did on Bastard, which always creased me up. His wife was quite a, sexy sort of woman, and he got in the EU. And they're due to vote on something. They said, "Ministers, before you vote, my dear wife would like to give you some photographs." And you don't see the photographs, but she puts a photograph on the desk in front of each minister. They're going, "I'm sure you'll be voting with me." "Oh yes, yes." And you don't see the photographs; you just use your imagination.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
other one was when she's having an affair with an MP. And she said, "Where are you going?" She said, "I'm just going to buy some condoms." "Oh, don't worry, there's a machine in the hallway."
Actually, that's probably true. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a condom machine in the
But apparently, in the house, this woman, there's this old dear that phoned in. But apparently, because the House of Commons drinks are so cheap, she said most of the ministers are pissed all day. You go there and they'll sort of, so they get a taxi to the House of Commons, turn up, get there, was it 500 quid or something, and then get pissed and go home.
Somebody's just wandering past there.
My God, it's I don't know.
They're up to mischief over. They're up to mischief over there,
Very attractive lady behind you. Oh, hello, Maureen. There's Maureen. I like your hair," said Chris, lying out the back of his tent.
This is for my comedy routines.
Ah,
I'm on YouTube. It's called what's it called? Giggle Cat
Comedy Club.
Giggle Cat Comedy Club.
please. What's this?
Giggle Cat Comedy.
Hang
Can
on.
you type it in the comments, Kat?
Giga Cat.
Giggle Cat.
Giggle.
Giggle cat.
Giggle Cat Comedy Club, and it's on YouTube. And
YouTube.
Dawn's comedy is Big Cat Banter.
Big cat banter.
Yeah, check them out. Check them out.
I'll certainly check it out. I'll give you a good plug as well.
Oh,
In
thank
fact, what I'll do, I'll put it in the banners. All right. Hang on. So was it create about? So was it Giggle
Giggle Cat. Yeah.
Giggle Cat
And Big
on? Right. Was it Giggle Cat on?
What's it on? What's it on again? Giggle Cat. YouTube.
It's a Giggle Cat Comedy Club.
Oh, hang on. I've got it wrong here. I better redo.
Giggle Cat. She's texting it for you.
It'll be all one word, won't it?
Giggle Cat Comedy Club.
Yeah, Kaz is texting it for you. There.
Giggle Cat Comedy Club.
Oh.
Well,
Giggle Cat Comedy Club.
We've got all
Yeah,
these
I got
women.
it on the bottom of my do flop. How's that?
Yes, I think it'll be. I think Giggle Cat will be all one word, is it? Oh, right, it's not. Apparently not.
All right. Well, I'll leave that there for a while so people can make a bit of note of it.
Is that you?
All right, isn't it?
Right, there you go. Right, I've got me harem of women over there.
Yeah, but very, very fetching that. In fact, if you went to the House of Commons, you could probably get a job as an MP dressed like that. With your garbs and that. I mean, you'd fit in right in well, wouldn't you?
Get back to the don't they have about £10,000 like tab at the bar? Isn't that part of that the wages and them?
I don't know. They get loads of perks. I know that. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's all subsidised.
Yeah, by us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just say that £10,000.
Well, when you look at the expenses, I mean, the way they're ripping people off. But again, what kind of person does a job like that? I just couldn't do it, really. You know,
And what's the average wage of MP? Is it about 88,000 or something? Is it?
well, I think it's more than that because I know the local head honcho, the local council, is £140,000 a year. Plus, he's the director of a company that's owned by the council. So why don't they put him down as the part-time head honcho? Because he can't be doing that full-time if he's a director of another company.
Well, they've all got fingers and pies, and it's a conflict of interest, isn't it? Really, it's they've got that, you know, that part of another corporation or group or something like that, or a CEO or something else. Sometimes it's just a name and things like that. It's all kickbacks, you know.
Oh, it is. I mean, is the council in Newcastle? I don't think it's in Newcastle Council. Are they as bent as they are all over the country? Because they're pretty bent down here. I mean, they've got so much money, they don't know what to do with it. And there's rumours that they might be going bankrupt. And you think, what? And they also give to charities. And I look down the list of charities, and they're giving to a Masonic lodge in Bristol. And I'm in Hertfordshire, which is quite a long way from Bristol. So what they're doing giving money there?
Yeah. I think if you dig deep enough, you'd find that there was money being sent out to places that you would really have to question seriously, and you know, investing in things that they shouldn't be investing in, really.
That's it. I know that Robin Hood Energy was started by Nottingham City Council. I think they've sold it now to another energy company, or they've gone bust, one of the two. I can't remember what's happened to it. But most local councils now have got their own private businesses on the side. And I know that my local one has got a letting agency, which the senior executive of the council actually is the director of. So how can he be a full-time senior director when he's the director of the council, when he's actually, the senior executive of the council when he's the director of another company?
Yeah, well, that's the conflict of interest thing, isn't it? I think when you become an MP, that should be a sole job, really, if you're going to seriously do it. But the trouble is we know that's not the case. They're all party on some other, sitting on many other boards and things like that. And the worst type of politician are career politicians.
Oh yes,
people that are, you know, they go into it in their 20s and they're there till they retire, and some of them should be bloody retired. Excuse me, can I say that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
you know, like the House of Lords, for instance. You know, £300 a day just to have a little kip in there. Really, that's as long as you turn up.
Well, that's right. By the way, when I start the radio show, you can say what you want on there because I'll be on Rumble. So, so it's so anything we want because Rumble you can. But no,
Right.
I mean where I live, it's a
Watching your P's and Q's.
Yeah, same here. It's very difficult because sometimes I drop a clanger. You can't help it. But
Right,
what gets me, and again, I'm not showing any envy or anything like that. There's some people that are coming straight out with these words that I will get banned for.
Yeah. Well,
It's weird.
if you're on your own, if you've got your own private platform, you can say it. I think that's the thing. Like, you know, that's the way.
That's it. I think radio. I mean, I'm still going to keep the Monday show, but I think the radio one on Rumble, I'm hoping to have a chat room with that and a live phone in. So that is something that I'm working out at the moment. But it's the technicalities because I think my steam-powered computer, I don't think is powerful enough for it. It's like, you know.
So that's just pure radio. That's just pure audio.
It'd be audio, and
So
we can say
you'll not be restricted to swear words, will you?
that's right. Well, you can swear. It's all right. I mean, I swear a lot, but it's just so. Shall we say things that YouTube don't like talking about, like things in the sky and things like that, and was it against their community standards? You know, so talking about Mr. H, I don't think they like talking about Mr. H very much. So you know, that's against their community standards. Because was it a right-wing extremist or something? No, far right. But you see, looking on the map of Britain, I think Newcastle is further right than I am because I'm in Hertfordshire. You see, because when you've got the far right, the extreme right, which would be Norwich, I would say.
Right. I know. Well, yeah, I know Hertfordshire. Well, I know a town called Ware.
Oh, Ware, that's just up the road to me. Ware,
Really?
Yeah. I used to work with Ware. Yeah, Ware is 6 miles away.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know. I'll tell you a little story. In 1981, right, which was the year of the royal wedding, myself and a friend, we'd done a charity roller skate from Newcastle to London.
Wow.
It was to raise money for Charlie Bear scanner appeal.
That's Lando.
Is this our new parliamentary candidate?
This is Lalo. Just
Hello, Lalo. Hello, Lalo. Hello, Lalo. He's looking at me. That's weird. Hello, Lalo.
Sorry about that. So yeah, it was to raise money for Newcastle. I think it was General wanted a scanner, and they needed like £1 million at the time, which is like small change now. But everybody was doing all sorts of things to raise money. So this friend of mine came up with this crazy idea of to roller skate from Newcastle to London, and so we got people to sponsor us, and we've done it in 9 days.
3 weeks in hospital.
And we finished, but to be quite honest, it was purely bad timing. Really, it couldn't have been any worse, because we arrived on Westminster Bridge, I think, on the day of the royal wedding. It was a very hot. I think it was June day, and of course, all the publicity was centered on the royal wedding in the city centre.
Oh dear.
So we headed up to Oxford Street to the shop, because we got sponsored by a shoe company called Sasha, who supplied the roller boots and the kit. Now, just getting back to the Hertfordshire, a bit of it, we met these fantastic people at the Cobblers. I think it was Paul, my friend Paul, his skate had broke. Had to go. We got to the town, and we found this cobbler, and we took the skates in there to try and get repaired. And we met this lady in the shop called Mary. And she invited us back to her house in Ware, the town there, and so I think we stayed the night there. It was I met some absolutely fantastic people back then. Of course, I'm talking like 43 years ago, so the world was a different place then.
It certainly was. And I'll tell you what I saw in Ware once. Now, first of all, if you went there on a Tuesday, it would smell of hops because that's where the beer people were, and all the host houses there. And also, I saw a snake, I think it was a grass snake, swimming along the canal there with his head up on the top. And people go, look, there's a grass snake swimming on top of on there. And Ware is very, very a lot of history. It's very historic stories. And do you know that there's a rival between Ware and Hertford? Hertford's about a mile from Ware.
Yeah.
People couldn't stand the Hertford people and vice versa. They detested each other.
After that event that year, in the following year, the night were down for a holiday, so I went down to stay with this family the next year. Yeah, and I mean, the house was massive. It really was a big house.
There was a lot of money around Ware. There's a hell of a lot.
Absolutely, and had this massive garden. You know, I'm trying to get them on the screen there. So I volunteered to do a garden, so because there weren't really gardeners.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Did you see where at Scott's Grotto whilst you're in Ware?
No, but it was a nice year that as well. So that would have been 82. But we went to
Welling, yeah.
It's like is it a man-made lake there or something?
That's right. Well, yes, the lakes there. Yeah, they're man-made.
Very, very flat and very calm. And we spent a sort of day there. You know, it was lovely.
Old Welling is very, again, that's very historic. But modern Welling was Welling Garden City.
Yeah.
So Ware itself, Scott's Grotto, is fascinating because it's, I'm not sure now, but when I went there, I think it was privately owned. I think it's been taken over by English Heritage or something now.
Right.
It was built by Quakers. There was a lot of unemployment in the 18th century, and to provide employment for people, they made this grotto, and all the ballast from the ships. They used to have shells in ships that was ballast.
Yeah.
And they got them up from London and put them along the walls. All these shells from all the way around the world on the walls of Scott's Grotto. And the lady said that whatever time of year you go down there, it's the same temperature. So she said in the summer it's lovely and cool, and in the winter it's still the same temperature. It's sort of warm, and it's fascinating. It really was fascinating.
It was a part of the world I could have probably lived down there. Really, it was. I remember, I think it was about 22 miles outside London.
Oh yes,
and I thought it was just a lovely place, and the people were incredibly friendly, and you know.
They are. I like Ware a lot. I've got. I mean, it's just up the road to me, and of course, the author, Frederick Forsyth, he lived not far from Ware. He had a sheep farm. Yeah, he doesn't live far from. I don't know if he's still alive. I don't know if he coped it, but Ware has a lot of famous people. Ware around there had a lot of famous people, and the other one was, you know, the guitarist in Queen. What was his name now?
Brian May.
Brian May. He lived in Ware, didn't he? He was a Ware man.
Ah, I never knew that. Wow.
Yes, he did, I believe. He worked. I don't think he announced his name, but he worked for the Samaritans. Kept it quiet. So he would help people who were suicidal, but they didn't know it was him.
He was a posh boy, wasn't he? Brian May. He's a posh boy.
Oh, he's pretty posh, yeah.
Queen were all posh. We had a friend doing a talk for us with the weekend. The occult aspects of Queen.
Oh yes,
Very interesting.
Yes. Also attached to the Beatles as well. A lot of occult.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of stuff on that, really. Yeah.
Now, do you believe Paul McCartney is real or do you reckon he's fake?
Oh, Billy Shears.
Billy Shears.
Yeah. William Shepherd. You know. I certainly don't think it's not out of the realms of possibility, because there is a couple of stories regarding that. There's that time when McCartney was arrested in Japan at the airport over drugs or something. And I think as part of the requirement, they had to do DNA or fingerprints or something like that, and there was some discrepancy there, right? That this wasn't McCartney. I don't know. And there's also a clip somewhere you can find of, where Paul McCartney meets this. I don't know if she's a celebrity, she's an actress or something. That it's at a party somewhere, and you can quite clearly hear her say, William or Billy. She says, "Oh, hello, Billy."
Yes, that's
And
interesting.
there is many other stories which will kind of back up the the conspiracy, if you can say that.
Like Joe Biden. Now, is it really Joe Biden or is it someone with a mask? Because I've noticed him scratching whoever it is back in the neck, and you can see it's a mask for Joe Biden. They reckon he does. He dies.
Well, apparently there's about 3 doubles for Biden. There's, they say there's like Churchill had about 2.
Yeah.
They all had them. Saddam Hussein apparently he had the most. So it goes without saying that somebody like Biden, currently, I think they're on Biden number 3, because I think the first one he was just malfunctioning, wasn't he? Really, he was just like seemed to be suffering from serious corpus mentis problems,
Oh, that's right. But Robert Dawes said something interesting here. He said Paul Gregory Martin, son of Sir George Martin, that was bloke who did all the sound mixing, wasn't it? I think has his son interesting things to say about his interactions with some of the Beatles. Now that's interesting, because I heard that when the Sgt. Pepper's, Joe Biden is a young man in makeup to play the Fault. Yeah, I agree there.
Yeah, well, I can probably believe that.
But yeah. I heard that when the Sgt. Pepper's album came out, the Beatles heard it and they said, "Oh, that's a great group. Who are they?" Because the engineers had done the job, they didn't recognise it was themselves, and they were out of their mind on drugs at the time. It says here, what is it? If you don't vote Joe Biden, you ain't Chinese, man.
Yeah. Well, he works for the Chinese, but of course right. He's president of the America Corporation, not the Trump is can I say Trump? Can we?
Yeah, Trump if you want.
He's president of the Republic.
Yes.
And always was. Because America became a corporation in 1781, I think. They had 100 years of independence as a republic. Then the Crown Corporation, basically,
It's like the king isn't the king, is he? Charles isn't the king. It's what they call it. It's the
the Crown Corporation is different to the Crown, apparently.
Yeah.
This goes, this. It's what you got to kind of understand about this. It gets very complicated, really. The square mile. London is London town, but London City is the square mile, the same as Washington D.C., District of Columbia, and also Rome, the Vatican. That's a square mile as well. That's
I never thought of that. It's a square because there's no such place as London. Sounds weird, but there isn't. There's the city of London, but London itself doesn't exist.
Well, London town. It was all London when you say going down to the town, London town. But the city is the city's a corporation, just like councils are and governments are corporations. All corporations, they run the world.
Oh, they certainly do. Now it says here, what is it? Stephen Truesdale says Bin Laden had doubles, or Bin Liners, or Bin Laden.
Well, he was Bin Laden. Apparently, was he worked for this. I think he was a member of the CIA. Well, he worked for the CIA. He was like the Bin Laden family. Apparently, the brother was friendly with them. They knew about his activities, and a lot of people think that Bin Laden was just like a made-up character.
No, it's all. And was it? This is interesting. What does he say? Oh, hang on a minute. I have been to the spot where John Lennon was murdered. Right, DJ B2. Energy New York City.
That the Dakota building in New York, isn't it? I think where you live.
Yeah.
I think he had an apartment there, didn't he, at the Dakota building?
Well, what they say is that Yoko Ono was a handler because she.
Yes, I believe. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. Because he changed after he met Yoko Ono.
Well, I noticed that Paul McCartney was very anti-establishment. Now he's very pro-establishment, and that's something weird. They all start off being anti-establishment, and they're part of the establishment. And I'm not that keen on Paul McCartney because I don't think he's that talented. That sounds a bit. I don't think he's average.
Well, the music changed then. The Beatles, the Beatles, who were the first boy band, all they sang about was all love songs.
That's it.
That's all it was, just love songs. Apart from the few sort of different ones. Then in 1969, when the kind of split, they played the last gig on top of the, I think it was the AMI Studios or Abbey Road, I can't remember. Then when McCartney re-emerged, he was more serious. The songs were totally different. They weren't love songs because the first album, which was Band on Their Own,
that was crap. I really thought that Wings was crap.
Well, if you listen to the lyrics are quite tough.
Really?
The first one said to the second one, "I hope you're having fun." There's truth in the lyrics.
That's interesting because I know a friend of mine who's very much a Beatles enthusiast, and he reckons that the ELO was a continuation of the Beatles because he said if you listen to their music, it's like a sort of it evolved. He reckons that ELO was like a continuation. I think you've got a point because I liked ELO. I think they're brilliant.
Yeah, well, their songs are a little bit more sophisticated, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, I mean they're pretty. It's just it's an interesting one, was it? Was it? I think John Lennon had a double.
Well, yeah, that's possible.
Yes. And it says here, Charles has the same as all royals do.
Yeah, they all do.
I believe it. I think the Queen, I think she croaked it years before. They said she.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people in the movement believe that. Like, yes.
What's your view? Do you think she croaked it long before they officially announced it? Yeah.
Yeah, we believe that absolutely. I actually said that myself. I believe she had died 2 years before, and because it's all Masonic anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it's very Masonic. We're ruled by Freemasonry and some Masonic signs, and what gets me is that I've also said this several times. I find it creepy. Anybody that wants to go into a room and they do strange rituals with a load of other men, and nobody knows what it's about. Well, they claim they don't know what it's about, but weird, you know. Now, this is an interesting one. Hachachi says, does Jim Carrey play with the part of Michelle Obama now and again? Well, we all know Michelle Obama.
Oh, Michael,
yes.
Big Mike.
Big Mike. Louise Wilcox says, Washington, D.C.
District of Columbia,
is the Crown Corporation, hence why it was closed off during Biden's inauguration.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you remember the time of Biden's inauguration, there was a lot of the White House was fenced off. There was a lot of activity to and fro going on at the White House, and for a long time the lights were out basically, and then vehicles were coming and going, and because you can look at these things on cams, you know, you can look at anywhere around the world. It's being observed by a cam, and people that live around there also noticed strange activity that was going on. And these fences appeared and then they came down, and so we don't know, you know, because a lot say that Biden isn't actually in that White House. There's two different White Houses. There's another White House somewhere else. You can look into this as well.
Because I don't think anything experimental or anything going on in Area 51. I think it's somewhere else they're doing it. I think the Americans are doing what they did with those cruise missiles in Britain. They were actually, they weren't in where they said they were. They're actually in Suffolk, an air base there. So they do that a lot.
Is that that's not RAF Bentwater, is it?
No, the one where the UFO was seen.
Well, apparently, during the 1980, when that incident happened, there was UFOs were seen above the base, shining the lights down on this area where they're supposed to have kept the cruise missiles.
The strange thing is, as Colonel Holt, I think he was in there, his story has changed over the years, and there's a lot of people reckon it was a psyop to hide what they was actually doing.
There's two different stories that seem to go along with the whole incident. Really, what they call it, what was the name of the place?
Oh, it was you got me there.
Rendlesham
Forest. Yes, Rendlesham Forest.
There's two stories because you've got Colonel Holt and you've got Larry Warren, who was a security officer, I think at the time, a security guy. So this seems to have split the UFO community down the middle, because some believe Holt, some believe Warren, and then there's a third viewpoint, is that it didn't happen at all. It was just a big psyop. So
I think it's like what they do. They are experts at trashing things. For example, they're talking about, I don't know, different communities. They always show an example from different. Well, I don't like using the word communities. That's communism. Yeah. But what I'm saying is certain. Let's say, a perfect example would be, I said this the other week, Notting Hill Drive. Right. Now, it was started off, probably the person that started it off had a good idea, etc., etc. What did I show you? Loads of people of Caribbean origin, working, all that. So people will look at them and think, oh, everybody from the Caribbean's like that, and everybody from the Caribbean isn't like that. So
No.
what they're doing, they're accentuating a minority to make it look like the majority. And they do that all the time. And I think with UFOs, what they've done, they've taken it and they're using it as a kind of a political agenda in many ways. And it's maybe being hyped up so that the genuine cases are being overlooked by all the hoaxes that they're putting out. Because I think a lot of them are deliberate government hoaxes. I really do. Because to throw people off the scent.
Well, I think there's two types. I think there's two kinds of UFOs. You know, there's ones that come from goodness knows where, and I think there's government ones. I think they have back engineered that technology. You know, if it's not from retrieved or crashed, vehicles, ships, it's from the technology that's been given to them by these beings. You know, so.
Well, if you look in, I mean, I'm not religious and I don't know that much about the Bible. Apparently, the Book of Enoch that actually describes aliens' interaction with humans, and it describes it in great detail. Apparently, I haven't read it, so I don't know, but this is what I've been told, and I've heard stories from it. But when you look, and I don't wish to upset anybody, any religious people, I'm probably talking out of ignorance, but when you look at the Bible, it looks like ancient people describing meetings with an advanced civilization.
Yeah, and the Book of Enoch was taken out of the Bible deliberately. So
yeah,
and there was a lot of stuff that was taken out of the Bible deliberately, where you've got spirit.
I got you, baby. I got you.
Hello. Got here. We colour of your hair. I like your
Yeah,
glass.
just in from Hollywood.
Are you?
Just
You float in.
just come back, just arrived back from LA. You know?
Yeah,
Still high.
in the best possible taste, of course.
Yes, absolutely, yes. High in a good sense. Share, eat a heart out.
What's TJB2 said? Yoko, as Chris said, was probably his handler in later years. Hang on, is that Yoko Ono in disguise? I think he is behind you. Yoko, where you been? Oh, blimey, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I should be about 80 now, wouldn't you?
Well, she's still as weird as she was.
What do you want, Dave?
Hello, Yoko. Oh, Yoko.
This is Yoko's sister.
Yoko's sister, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. What's it? George Harrison. Louis Wickles says George Harrison paid the price to the cult with his death of his son. His son died as well, because George Harrison died, didn't he?
Well, yeah, that is quite possible, isn't it? Really, and even the death of George Harrison was a bit suspect, wasn't it? Really.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery.
It's Toyota Wilcox.
Yeah, this is. Yeah. Well, I've got them all in here. You know.
This was a hand grenade and it's exploded.
Yeah, it's a party over there.
Yeah.
No,
Well, it's his own fault for using my house.
Have you seen Toy Wilcox's husband? I
Yes.
thought we found that. Yes, he's
Robert Fripp.
Robert Fripp. Yes,
Robert Fripp, yeah.
I just saw a video. They do a video each week, and he's
They do some strange. They do them little recordings from the kitchen.
yes. She's a little bit odd.
She's looking very hot these days, doesn't she, Toya? Like so.
She does. Yes, she
All right,
forgets to put a bra on a lot, doesn't she? I don't know
Yeah.
why. You know.
She's matured like a good wine, really.
It's good for a ticker, isn't it? Yes, but there we go. Just, here we are. This is Stephen Truesdale who says, I think George Harrison was targeted and killed.
Oh God, incoming.
Dave, I've had electric shock.
Bloody hell.
Oh my God.
It's electric dandruff, isn't it?
Apologies for for this podcast being hijacked. Really.
She had a little bit too much tea to drink, I think.
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Now, it's just an interesting one. Ancient Ruby says Charles will get up being king soon, yet he was never meant to have it, but made to have it. Did he really?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was on a. I think he knew that. I think he was on a. It's all contractual, isn't it? Really, I think it's all planned for them ahead.
Well, did you know? I'm trying not to show off here, but I'm 65,423 in the throne. I think you are as well, aren't you? I think you're 63 million.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know whether you're ahead of me or not. I don't know. You might be a bit behind me. I don't know.
But Tony Robinson,
Yeah.
the historian guy. He said the real king lives in Australia. He done
That's right.
that. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Really,
Well, why not become? Because you can't be a citizen of Flockham, which is the smallest country in the world, but you can become an individual of Flockham, and you can call yourself anything you want in Flockham. So you say you could be king of Flockham if you want to be.
Right. It's a good title, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and the Prime Minister of Flockham is a cat. It's called Roger, and his surname's Ring, and he likes to be known as Roger Ring the cat. And the reason, and a lot of officials throughout the world like Roger Ring the cat, apparently. So I heard. So it's a nice title, isn't it? But and on that note, thanks for joining us tonight, Dave.
Right, you're very welcome, Chris. It's been great. Thanks for having us on.
Sorry about the YouTube.
I think Maureen wants to say goodbye.
Good night, Maureen. Hello. Hello, Maureen. I like your hair.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
See you soon.
See you soon. Stay on when I click the do flop on, because we'll speak to you after the show. And whilst I'm here we go. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us, Dave.
Very welcome.
We've got a special coming on with, so I won't say too much, but it's a special coming on. Same time, same place, Monday.
Okay.
And so stay online, and so I'm afraid, so remember to subscribe, etc., and whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh, and good night.
Yeah, good night.